So I'm lying in the hospital bed and my little brother plays the guitar and he sent me a little video of the bare necessities, you know, the Jungle Book. And there's a line in the bare necessities that says, "The bees are buzzing in the tree to make some honey just for me." And I realised that I was lying in the hospital getting paid and everybody else was doing the work. And the world was carrying on. And I realised at that point that I'd been doing it completely wrong and I needed to change something. 6, 7 years ago, I was kind of doing that thing in your career where you're kind of pushing on hard, right? And you're taking on more things. It's a very easy thing to do, right? So I was running a big chunk of the Mr. 2 program for the bank. I'd actually taken over from Mick as the analysis and design competency lead. I was the head of data protection for Accenture in the bank, so I had to sign off on loads of things. I had a team in India, I had obviously a team in Ireland. We had 3 kids under 4, and that was me kind of going, just do this, more things, because I'm going to have a great career and I'm brilliant, I can do everything. And then on a Monday morning I started getting a headache, really just a bad headache. But I went to work, it kind of carried on, and it got more and more intense. So I kind of staggered home that evening, decided I'd take the day off on the Tuesday, turned off the phone, went to bed, shut the window, shut the curtain, and the light was kind of really causing me a problem. Locked myself in the room and just said, "Well, get better, James, bad headache, go to bed." Woke up the next day and I felt a bit better, it was kind of okay. So I went into work, got going again, and now I've missed a day, so everything's kind of piling up a bit more. I got into it and was kind of doing all the little, running the STEX meeting, getting the steering pack ready for next week, all those things that we're kind of all doing in the middle of our day. At one point I was in a meeting with my boss and he texted me, just kind of step out, like he wanted to step out, he had another meeting he wanted to go to, he thought I had everything under control, and I just texted him back, "NP, send." And it auto-corrected to no. So he said, "Can I leave the meeting?" And I said, "No." And I wouldn't normally make that kind of mistake. It was kind of like I'd have checked it, and anyway, I quickly realised what I'd done and texted him back saying, "No problem, you crack on, I've got this meeting." But I started making those little tiny mistakes that were a bit weird, that were kind of out of character. And I felt this pressure, huge pressure, just from nowhere, really, well, from everything that was going on. And that carried on through the Thursday, and then I got a text message from my wife on the Thursday saying that could I pick up a new toilet seat on the way home, because the toilet seat downstairs loo was broken. Sam was kind of at that age, he was starting his potty training, so downstairs loo, quite a big deal if you're potty training a child. And I know that crawling around fixing a toilet seat is not, like, I'm good at DIY, but fixing a toilet, that's skinned knuckles, that's rusted stuff that's just horrible, that's just bad. And that was one thing that was kind of playing on my mind. So anyway, that night I went home and I woke up the next morning, I've got to deal with this, there's something wrong here and I need to deal with it. So I went in, the next morning we had our senior manager meeting. So imagine a room like this, like all the key accounts partners, everybody from Accenture at the bank. And I walked up and it was a room probably maybe 20 or 30 people, so a bit bigger group than this. And I drove to the hotel, got there nice and early, walked around the garden, psyching myself up, and then I kind of came up to the room and I went up to my boss, who was kind of the lead on the account, and I said, "Carl, I need to spend the first 20 minutes of this meeting talking about my mental health. And if you don't let me do that, I'm going to resign immediately, and I'm going to tell everybody that it's because you wouldn't let me talk about my mental health." Both barrels, like, and he had no idea. It's like what was. So he obviously became very concerned. "James, you do what you need to do." So I stood up in a room like this, and the whole lot came out, like the toilet seat, the potty training, like the stress from signing off on things, this, everything, the whole lot, like that. And there was tears from me. There was a couple of hugs. I think there was a smattering of applause in the end. People were shocked. But a lot of people resonated with it. And a lot of people over the course of that next day kind of came up to me and said, James, I feel the same, or I'm struggling with this, or whatever else. I was taken out for coffee by a lovely lady cleaner, one of the partners. She said, James, take time off, you'll be fine, right? We'll look after this, So I went home on the Friday, booked into a hotel with my wife. We said, right, we'll go to a hotel tomorrow night and we'll relax, right? And that's what we'll do, we'll relax. And so I woke up the Saturday morning and somebody in the HR department had given me a number for the employee assistance program. So I phoned in and I was really feeling this pressure. I couldn't get away from this pressure. And so I phoned the employee assistance program. It was about 7 o'clock in the morning, and they said, sounds really serious, we'll get someone to call you back when there's somebody who knows how to talk about this. It would probably be in a couple of hours. So I went out for a walk and I got weirder and weirder, and I came home and I said, I don't feel myself. I need you to take the kids and go away. I don't feel happy with how I'm behaving or how I'm about to behave. I just feel this pressure. I think I'm losing control. She was obviously very nervous, and she took the kids to her dad's house, and I said, I'm going to phone this number and I'll speak to someone and get some help, we'll see what happens. And about 8:30 I put on The Big Bang Theory, because that'll calm me down. I watched that, something to just kind of, and the pressure just kept on building. At one stage something just switched inside my head. And I ran over the road and I banged on the neighbour's door and I said, I'm having a breakdown, I don't know what to do, I'm really stressed, And I sat down with them, they calmed me down for a little while, gave me a cup of tea. And then I got this weird idea that I'd infected them with whatever my problem was. And I ran out and I started running around the neighbourhood, shouting weird things. Somebody stop me, I'm going to hurt someone, I don't know what's going on. Words to that effect, okay? And I didn't want anyone near me because I just didn't feel I was in control. It all gets a bit hazy after that, but the ambulance turned up. I was rushed to hospital, and turns out, very much like Mark, I actually had a very severe case of viral meningitis. So the meninges is the sac of fluid around the brain, and it was inflamed, and it was putting that pressure on my brain and causing that weird behaviour. So I'm lying in the hospital bed a few days before they figured this out. So I had a big, burly nurse chap sitting in the corner of the room because I had a psychotic episode, as I called it, and he was bigger than I was for the whole time, and they were testing things out, trying to figure out what had gone wrong with me and everything else. And after about 3 or 4 days, they figured out that it was what the virus was, spinal taps and all that. They gave me some antivirals, and the pressure started to eat. So I'm lying in the hospital bed, and my little brother plays the guitar. He's a hippie, and he sent me a little video of the bare necessities, the Jungle Book. So I'm lying in the bed, and there's a line in the bare necessities that says, the bees are buzzing in the tree to make some honey just for me. And I realised that I was lying in the hospital, getting paid by Accenture, and everybody else was doing the work. And the world was carrying on. Nobody died. I probably hadn't come that close. It wasn't potentially life-threatening, but it was very, very serious. But the world carried on. Yes, some balls got dropped and there were some other things that happened, but the bank carried on. MiFID II didn't stop, and I realised at that point that I'd been doing it completely wrong and I needed to change something. So I was in hospital for a couple of weeks, and then I went back to work. I had to take 2 or 3 months off. They wouldn't let me back in until kind of things had settled down. And I went up to the same lady who'd taken me for the coffee on the Friday before everything had gone very weird, and I said, look, I want to change what I'm doing with my role. I love this. I love talking about project management, learning about it and helping other people. And I was the analysis and design competency lead, but I was never an expert in analysis and design. I was always a project manager. And so we agreed that I would take over the project management competency for the bank. And that meant that I was then responsible for everybody delivering projects. Not like you, Elaine, in terms of accountable for making sure the projects get delivered, but making sure that everybody was good at what they were doing. And so I started running these kind of training courses, and I set up a podcast, And I did, and I had this great experience that all these project managers, all these really experienced project managers kept coming to me with all their most thorny problems, all their hardest things that they were dealing with. And I got to dig in and help them solve those really hard, the hardest bits of what they were doing without having to write a single status report. It was brilliant. So I got really good experience for 2 or 3 years in terms of learning about project management and teaching it and explaining things to people. And then out of the blue, I was in a training course very much like this called Delivery Excellence School, which we ran for the bank. And I got a phone call from a headhunter and they said, do you want to come and do you want to apply to be CIO, CPL? And I said, oh yeah, CPL, the recruitment, yeah. Who's the company that I'm going to be applying for? No, it's us, actually the recruitment company. Oh, right. I never thought I'd be a CIO. I'm not really an IT guy, I'm a delivery guy, I'm a project guy. But turns out I was what they wanted. So I got the phone call, and then I went for the interview and another interview, and then I met the CFO, and then I met the CEO and the head of strategy, and yes, eventually I got the job. So all of a sudden I've gone from having my dream job teaching about project management to now being landed in a company that needed some serious changes in terms of how they were running their projects and how they were delivering. So I went in, lovely team, met the team and figured out what was going on with the IT system, very operational, very little delivery, very frustrated business stakeholders, all of that stuff. And I'll talk about some of this stuff as we go through the rest of the next 2 days. But over the course of the next 6 to 12 months, put in Agile, trained the team up, Scrum Masters, product owners, and completely transformed the way that we were doing our delivery, and went from having really huge issues in live with potentially risks to payroll and people not getting paid, to winning technology awards and delighting customers and winning loads of extra business because our tech was so good in kind of a very short period of time. And I did all the things that we're going to talk about, delegating, teaching, bringing people up, and after about another 2 years, my team started to be really good at what they were doing. And I decided I could go down to a 4-day week. So I did. Just over a year ago, I went to a 4-day week. And I always had in the back of my head that I wanted to do talking about project management and teaching and helping other people. So I started writing some stuff about it as well. And I decided to figure out the cartoons. And so I reached out to this amazing artist and started building this, and then I started writing the book. And last summer, I decided actually this is going to be what I want to do now. So the team are doing a great job at CPL. They're kind of okay. I'm going to let them crack on, and I'm going to finish up, and this is what I'm going to be doing. And so this is the first proper training course of the new business. The book is more or less written. We're in discussions with a few publishers, and yeah, that's where I am now. So hopefully some good experiences there that you guys can all learn from. And yeah, that's really the background to me. So I'm going to introduce you.